Hello and welcome to Coombe Hill Wood in the Somerset, and I've been asked to make a little film about Corsican philosophy, so I'm going to do that. So my qualification to be able to do this is that my sister-in-law is Corsican. It's the most miraculous island in the Mediterranean Sea, and the people there are pretty extraordinary. They're very, very strong-willed, very strong characters, and they just won't tolerate bullshit. So, in Corsican philosophy, people are divided into two kinds. And the first is the person who you can say about him, you are your word. If you say you're going to do something, you do it. And if in the extremely rare eventuality something happens to prevent you from doing it that is so important you can't do it, you make sure you let people know in plenty of time and you offer an apology. So that's the first kind of person. You are your word. And it's very interesting what happens to a person when they become their word, when they fulfill whatever it is they say they're going to do. It's really quite remarkable when this happens, and actually how that affects them and how it affects people around them. Quite extraordinary. So that's the first kind of person they recognise. A person is their word. And one thing I will say about this is that you are your word more and more. From a shamanic perspective, what happens is you accumulate progressively more personal power, because those around you know that when you say you're going to do something, indeed it is so. There's the other kind of person, and this kind of person is called the leaf blowing in the wind. And it's beautiful because if you look, I've got leaves blowing in the wind as I'm walking along, so that's so cool. So the leaf blowing in the wind says they're going to do something, and then when the fulfillment of doing that thing becomes even very slightly inconvenient, they change their mind. This kind of person cannot be trusted. They cannot be counted upon, because all one can know is at the time they utter the words, I'll do this, they mean it. They genuinely do. However, that's all it means. That's all it means. And then the moment that becomes inconvenient, it's often simply forgotten about. Often that person doesn't necessarily take the trouble to inform people that they're not going to do it. So you can see one of the limitations of this philosophy straight away is it's only really looking at two possibilities. And yet there is a lot in this. There really is a lot in this philosophy of the Corsicans. So this is something to consider. Something that's quite good to do a little personal inventory on. Just to ask yourself, to what extent are you your word? To what extent can people trust you and rely upon you to deliver the goods when you say you're going to do something? To what extent is it a conditional thing whereby you may or may not deliver the goods? And for the Corsican, the leaf blowing in the wind is someone for whom the entire culture and society has absolutely no respect whatsoever. They really are very strong and very harsh about this. So there's something to consider. To what extent are you your word? To what extent are you a leaf blowing in the wind? And how do you feel about this philosophy from the tiny island in the Mediterranean called Corsica? All the love to you.